Hello again, loved ones. So I just uploaded a video and I kind of felt compelled, I guess, since I've been doing a little more on YouTube to say some things here. Now, yes, my podcast is called My Sober Addiction. I am a heroin addict in recovery. I have now been in recovery for 8 years, should be 10, but hey, I relapsed 8 years ago. But now we're at 8 years. Now, when I got sober once and for all, I decided I'm going to put my nose down. I'm just going to work. I'm going to pay up a lot of the crap that bills and all that crap that I'd accumulated while I was off in the wind, rebuild my relationships with people, and focus for 5 years. I want 5 years sobriety before I do anything. Now, I've always kind of been a writer. I've always liked to write. And after I hit the five, and I'm thinking I want to write. I want to write a book or whatever, blog. I don't know. But I'm gonna do this 5 years first. So I was talking to a counselor once I'd hit the 5 year mark. I'm like, look, I've hit this milestone. That's what I was going for. Now I want to start reaching out. Now I want to start helping people. And he was like, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, I'm a writer. I like to write. He's like, that's cool. Blogging is great. He said, but the problem with blogging is it's so saturated. If you want to really reach people, if you really want to be an example or be an inspiration or whatever, you're gonna have a hard time getting some traction. I'm like, okay. He's like, and then there's also YouTube. But just like blogging, you're gonna have a hard time getting some traction. I'm like, okay. So he mentioned doing audio podcasting. Also pretty heavily saturated, but not quite as bad. I had never thought about it. I'm like, well, I looked into it, fell in love with the idea, and started My Sober Addiction with absolutely nothing, no idea what I was doing. Clearly. Obviously. No, I'm kidding. Well, and I'm still doing the blogging. In fact, if you want to read some stuff that I've done, some of my more off the wall stuff, I guess, it's on Substack. Just find Matt Stevens. I decided I wasn't going to use some moniker. I'm going to be a wide open book. Because while I was going through active addiction, well, no, not active addiction. When I was going through the initial detox and the withdrawals and all that, you feel so alone. There is not a more alone feeling. Now you know that there's lots of people who have gotten sober and know exactly how it feels. You know this, but you feel like you're the first person that's ever had to deal with this. You're the only person that's ever had to go through this. You're the only that's just the feeling you have. Now, I'm sure there were resources, but I just wasn't hip to them. Why? Because I'd been off in the wind for 10 or 12 years up to that point. I didn't know that was YouTube channels about addiction. Of course, not as candidly as I do. You know, you get a lot of people who have, who are into behavioral health and all that, and God bless them, they're great people. But someone who would actually speak to you as an addict. Anyway, the point is, I didn't have a whole lot of resources, so I felt very alone. And my point was, I'm going to be a resource for people who are new to sobriety and feel alone. Because when you're new to sobriety, you hopefully, don't have many friends. Because all your friends that you've had up to that point are probably still using. You've got to cut those ties. Otherwise, you're not that serious about your sobriety. Anyway, that's a whole other subject. But they don't have much in the ways of people. And yeah, they might have their family and they've got meetings they can go to. But anyway, so he mentioned that, and I've done that. and I've got the audio podcast, and now I'm doing these videos, and I think they're fun. I like doing the videos. I like doing the podcast too, but anyway, don't get me wrong. So, with regards to this whole thing I talk about it a lot with reality creation and a lot of spiritualities type stuff. I had a really bad overdose once, and it was as bad as you're going to have and still survive. To the point where, that's what the doctors told me, but to the point where the EMTs, I was found, 911 was called, EMTs came out, they worked on me, pretty much had given up. They said, can't win them all. Some people are just too far gone. This guy's one of those. But then they told me, I twitched, I jerked, I kicked, I don't know I can't remember what they said. I did something, and they were like, oh shit, try him again. So I did, and I came to, and here I am. Believe it or not, that was not the last time I used. That was the 10 years ago. Then I did relapse and whatever. But here's the thing. While I was out, while I was not here, whatever you want to call it, I was conscious and aware of the fact that I exist. You see, I have had times in my life where I was very religious. Now, it wasn't that religious, I guess, compared to some people, but for me, it was very religious. I was going to church twice a week, that kind of stuff. And I've never felt more spiritual. I've never been more certain that there's a creator. I've never been more certain than I was after that experience. I didn't meet anybody. I didn't see anything. In fact, where I was complete black. I had no shape. I had no form. I just, pure state of being. No space, no time, no distance. Just a pure state of being. But the point is, I existed and I knew it. That's rather profound. And because of that, I am now more spiritual than ever. So when I hear atheists say, oh, this is all there is, it's just a big cosmic accident. No. I mean, that's fine if that's what you want to believe, but I can't see how somebody can believe that. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not getting into that. But my personal opinion is, how can somebody think that? None of this would be here if it wasn't imagined somewhere by somebody. Like the Kabbalion says, is we exist inside the mind of the Creator. The universe exists inside the mind of the Creator. See, a lot of people, and myself included, think, or used to think anyway, that the universe was the Creator's mind. And I think, it might be a potato kind of thing. Like you say this, I say that, whatever. It's not even the point. It doesn't matter. What does matter is we exist inside the mind of the Creator. Much like, and as I've said, a authoring a book or creating a story in your mind, you can develop these characters, you can develop these places, these events, and all these things, and they exist inside your mind. Now, do they exist in reality? Well, in your mind, yes. If somehow we could insert ourselves into that imagined reality in your mind and speak with those characters, they would probably think that they exist. They would probably tell you, well, yeah, duh, I'm here, aren't I? Now, another thing that Kabbalion says is that the only difference between our mind, our imagination, and that of the big dude is, it says it's a difference in degree, but I use the word scale. Same difference. So, that big, profound overdose introduced me to spirituality, reality creation. What's it all about? Why are we here? Why do we have experiences? Why are we doing this? Why is that person doing that? what's this all about, right? Well, you are a divine spark. It's like the quote that I used the other day on that one video last week or whatever about from Rumi about how you are not a drop in the ocean. You're the ocean in a drop. What that means is the creator having this creation and wanting to experience it. Then create, and it's originally said that let's use the word 1 billion, or let's use the number 1 billion. So the creator then divides itself into a billion parts, which is us, and has these 1 billion different experiences. Of course, I realize that the numbers are far larger than that, but work with me. So, but that's not true, because that would say that we are 1 billionth of the creator. When in fact, the creator has created these 1 billion divine sparks, but is in them 100%. Having an experience through me, having an experience through you, having an experience through Jimbo over there or whoever. And what that experience is up to the individual spark. So that's why I talk a lot about reality creation. Now, if the creator wants to experience everything there is to experience, are there going to be some very bad, very dark experiences? Yeah, there are. And that's unfortunate that some of them are going through that. But that doesn't have to be you or me. The only one we can focus on is ours. The beautiful thing is, you are 100% of the ocean in a drop. You do have the creative power of the creator. Now, there is that veil of forgetfulness, or whatever they call it, when we enter this 3D physical world. But we have to kind of forget it. The fact that we are living in this, that we are divine sparks, that we are the creator embodied. We can't come here knowing that. It has to be something that we discover. And then, I guess, use that information to create the reality that we want. Because why wouldn't you, right? It's like you're here, you're going to have an experience. Why not have a good one? Like I said, some people are going to have bad ones, and I hate that. But, all I can do is focus on this one. So I am going to create the best experience I can possibly do, or at least the one that I want to have. And I'm encouraging you to do that as well. See, when I started the podcast, my whole goal was to speak to addicts new to recovery so they could have a resource. Because when I was new to recovery, and I realized there was resources out there. There were podcasts, there were YouTube channels, all that stuff. But I'd been off in the wind for so long, I didn't know what was out there. I just sat around feeling lonely and like nobody understands. So I was like, I'm going to be that. I'm going to put my life out there. Because there's a lot of addicts who, for whatever reason, they're not willing to share what they've done. They're not willing to say the things that they've done. They're not even really willing to publicly come out and say, I'm an addict, blah, blah, blah. Well, I am. So I will speak. I speak. I say things that I know there's people who are glad somebody's saying it. And then there's other people who just need to understand. Maybe it's the family of an addict. They just need to understand what their mindset is. One thing I can tell you is addiction is a mental disease. Oh, God, here we go. Right? So people get really triggered by that because they're like, oh, no, don't you try to say that an addiction is a disease. A disease is cancer. This is something you did to yourself by poor decisions. Very true. Very true. But a lot of times cancer is brought on by poor decisions too. Right? A lot of times diabetes is brought on by poor decisions. And another thing, I know that there were people who I used with who were not addicts. Like, for example, one friend, every so often, he'd be like, hey, man, let's get some dope and get high this weekend. Okay, cool. So Friday, Saturday, whatever, we'd do drugs. Then like Sunday, he'd come along, he'd be like, okay, I got to knock it off now. I got to get back to work tomorrow. That was fun. Maybe again next time we'll do it, whatever. Now, to the addict in me is like, huh? You can't just quit. What do you mean? I got to go to work. Okay, fine, I get that. But how are you going to go to work without using first? That was my mindset. See, he was not predisposed to use. Great. Some people just aren't. Some people are. That's the disease part. That makes it a mental disease. Some people are just predisposed. But I'm not getting off in the weeds on that. That's not important. Well, it is important, but it's not something I want to dwell on. So my counselor suggested, hey, why don't you start a podcast? So I did. And now I'm doing the videos and I'm doing the blog and all that. And I'm saying things that some people, that I know a lot of people are thinking. And I know that they're glad somebody's saying it. But here's the truth. This is very liberating. It really is. I haven't said it yet. This is very liberating. Because there's nothing that I'm saying about me. There's nothing you can say about me that I haven't said about myself. Anyway. There's that. So anyway, that's what I've got. Yes, I'm an addict in recovery, heroin addict. And my run was pretty short-lived. It was actually late blooming. I didn't start until like at 31, 32 years old. And I ran for about 10, 12 years. 10 years ago. Somewhere around there. 10 years. But man, did I ever do it to it. I really did. Because I was in rehab with a lot of guys who were half my age and had been using longer than I had. But whatever. Most people start off a lot younger. I had something happen in my life. It gave me an excuse. The whole victimhood mentality. I was able to use dope to mask the pain that I was feeling and blame it on someone else. Well, congratulations, Matt. You are now able to do whatever you want, right? No. Eventually, I realized what I was doing. And I take full responsibility for what I did. And that's that. So anyway, loved ones, I don't talk a whole lot about addiction because I'm like, well, we're past that. Learned a lot from it, of course. And I'm sharing what I've learned. But we're kind of past it. And if you're not an addict, well, that's awesome. But now you know where I'm coming from. Now you know what happened with me. Now you know how I got on this path. Like the whole consciousness and reality creation, none of that was in my field before that big profound experience. That's what started me off on it all. Anyway, that's what set me as I guess we would say as a seeker of trying to seek to understand. I was trying to understand what I experienced. Because it was certainly not what I would have thought. And even though I was raised as a Christian and as Catholic and then later Christianity, I'm more spiritual now than I ever was. So anyway, there's that, loved ones. I just kind of wanted to put this out, just kind of let people know where I stand and what I bring to the table, I guess. And just because it's like, well, Matt, you got all this stuff about addiction, but you don't talk a whole lot about addiction. Well, now you know why. So anyway, loved ones, I'm going to cut this off now. I'm right about the 20-minute mark. I love you, and I will be back directly.